Welcome to another episode of Home Sweet Home. My name is Rod McCall.
And I'm Scott Nichols.
So here's a question that I wanted to ask you. Because you love to read books.
I do.
You and I are both avid book. In fact, we'll call ourselves bibliophiles.
Okay.
No, is that right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. We both love books. We both
Yeah.
love to read. We both have extensive libraries. So I'm asking you, what is the book you're currently reading that you'd like to share?
So I'm actually reading about the Civil War right now.
Okay.
So I've read Michael and Jeff Sharma's books about the Civil War, Gods and Generals, Killer Angels, The Last Full Measure.
Oh, those are good.
I'm on The Last Full Measure right now. It's
Okay.
an excellent book. Gives you great, it's not, true history.
Historical
per se,
fiction.
But it's historical fiction, and it tries to give you a glimpse into what the generals were thinking and, some of the personal feelings that they had because, these guys were all friends before they were
Enemies.
fighting each other, right?
Yeah.
So it gives a really good glimpse into that era. I'm also reading another book called The Courage to be Disliked. So I read some psychological things and I read some fun books.
Sure.
And I read education books, right? So I'm always trying to get around and learn a little bit more kind of in every area.
Okay.
So
Let me ask you this, because I know for me, I know exactly what the answer is, but have you always been a big fan of reading books?
no.
When did you get into reading books?
So I really I got deeper into it in the last couple of years.
Okay.
I mean, last year I read 40 books. This year I'm trying to hit 40. And that's during the time when I was working on my master's degree. So that's a struggle. But I made it a priority and I feel really good about it. I feel different.
Okay.
I don't know, I don't know that I could pinpoint it, but I feel more accomplished, I suppose.
Okay.
And I feel like maybe I understand life just a little bit more.
Did you raise your children to like reading?
So, yeah, I think so. I think we did that. Mostly my wife, probably, because she was home. We homeschooled for a little while before
Okay.
we sent our oldest daughter to school. But we've always been big on education, and so reading is really important, right? Like if you can't read, how are you going to
Sure.
get good at education, right? As far as educating yourself. So that's always been a priority. So yeah, we spend a lot of time reading to our kids as much as possible, both of us, and kind of fostering that. Our kids, in elementary, middle school, were reading books, chapter books, and Harry Potter came out while they were kids, so that was a big deal. Stuff like that. So yeah, I think that they grew up reading. Do they all read now? I don't know.
Okay.
But they have lives that are busy too, right?
Sure.
So when I was in my 20s, I wasn't reading so much. So when I got older, I started to read a little bit more. You got to find the thing you love and dive into it.
Gotcha. Now you're a grandfather.
Yeah.
Do you read to your grandson?
Yeah, when he comes over, we have a set of books that are really for him, and we used to read more to him, but now he actually sits down and reads to us.
Okay.
Right. So he's 6 and he reads to us.
Gotcha. Well, there is a method to my badness here. And as we are beginning a new school year, depending on where you are in the United States, you're either just starting or been in for a month, but going back to school, now I always did summer reading program.
Yeah.
And our local library had a really neat contest. And of course, it was always, and the schools always combined with Pizza Hut back when Pizza Hut would do their personal pan pizzas and all these kinds of interesting things. But it got me thinking about reading. My sisters, their kids struggled with reading.
Yeah.
My Sherry's sister and brother, their kids, some really got into reading, some really did not.
Sure.
And so I thought, I want to explore a little bit about the role or impact that reading can have on child growth and child development. Okay. And so my question to you is, as an educator,
Okay.
Do you notice how successful, okay, maybe that's not the right way to ask this. Do you notice a correlation between kids that read and student success in the classroom?
Yeah, I think definitely the kids that are that they're reading, and it's evident that they're better writers overall, and there's a lot of writing in my courses, so they're better at the writing. They generally have more to talk about.
Okay.
So I think there's definitely some good things about it. Now, I said I read 40 books a year, so I actually share those, what I'm reading, with my students. And that's kind of a recent thing in the last couple of years, but I share it with them. And that's generated a lot of conversation with students about reading, about the importance of reading. And they've even gotten into some reading. A couple of them even wanted to challenge me to see how many books they could read by May, right, when school gets out. So it's been a positive thing, right? Where some kids that weren't reading now became readers, right? And so, and I think that changed their conversation, that changed their contribution in the classroom.
Okay.
And it changed their writing a little bit. We can't, I think it's often said, my wife's an elementary school teacher, but like you can't really be a good writer unless you're a reader.
Well, and I think that's true. I grew up reading, and my mom and dad made it real easy. They said you can either read or you can come outside and do chores.
Yeah.
You can pull weeds. You can work in the garden. You can mow the yard. You can. We got plenty of chores.
Yeah.
So instead of wasting your time in front of the TV or the Atari 2600 when it came out, of course we weren't the first ones to get it, but
Right.
So instead of wasting your time, you can either A, go in and read a book, or B, you can come out and do chores.
Right.
Well, I'll be right honest. I was a lazy kid. And so I'm going, I don't want to do chores. It's hot outside.
Yeah.
Or it's cold outside, or whatever the temperature might have been. And I go, okay, I'll read. Well, then I found, I don't like to read.
Yeah.
And so my parents worked, my mom in particular helped me get in, find what I like to read. And from there, it just kind of developed and exploded. Elementary school, middle school, high school, college.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to read tons before I go to bed. And I mean, my personal library was several hundred books.
Yeah.
And then you throw in the books I had for, teaching, and because, I'm a big history guy. So I was probably up at one point in the neighborhood of 1,000 books in my personal library.
Which is about where I am.
Okay. And I even wrote my own book.
Yeah.
All right. And when I was writing it, I'm going, okay, what do I want it to be like? And I'm going, well, I love to read. I want it to be an easy read. I want it to be an interesting story that captures a person's attention.
Sure.
And so the question then is, how do we get kids to read? Because right now, I was reading a recent report that was stating that 40% of fourth graders across the United States are below basic reading skills.
Yeah. You got.
And that was 2024. That was last school year.
Somehow you got to find what you like, right?
Yeah.
To read. And so, I think Harry Potter books are great because it's fantasy and there's a lot of lessons in there that relate particularly to kids, I think. But they got to find what they like. They got to find something they like. When I was younger, right, like for me, it was movies. I discovered early on that, when you're watching a movie, oftentimes it's based on a book.
Yeah.
When you're watching a TV show or a TV series, oftentimes it's based in a book. And guess what? I found that the book is almost always better than the movie.
Sure.
Now, the one exception I have to that, I think, is The Princess Bride. I think the book and the movie are both phenomenal.
Okay.
Right? Like those are, but he worked really hard to make that movie be exactly like the book. And so that's just fabulous, right? But I think of Jurassic Park is out. Like, again,
Yes.
Right. We just keep having more and more Jurassic. But the original book by Michael Crichton
Was pretty good.
was an awesome book and
Yes.
way better than the movie.
Oh, and
And people just don't know that, right?
a lot of people
And
died in the
so-
movie that did, or died in the book that didn't die in the movie. But
Right.
yeah.
We talk about, not having outside influences that like tell you what to think. But
Yeah.
like every time, if you go see a movie, it's just telling you the story and it's giving you the visuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you read a book, you get to create those visuals in your head. And it's way better as you read it and get those descriptions and imagine it for yourself. That's activating parts of your brain that you're never going to get activated by watching it on a screen.
One of the things that I was wanting to ask you and pick your brain, how did you encourage or develop, I don't know if I want to say a joy of reading, because for me, it's a joy. For you, I think it's a joy. But how do we take a kid and, how do we instill and develop them to enjoy reading in an age today where phones and electronic devices, electronic games, or, whether they're computer tablets or they're on their phones or, like a PlayStation or an Xbox or a Switch, how can we, I've got some ideas, but I want to ask you.
I think that limiting screen time is one thing. I have come to much prefer sitting down at 8:00 at night and reading a book than watching a TV show.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. There's lots of great TV out there, right?
Yeah.
There's tons of it. In fact, there's so much of it that I can't even make a choice. And I know you mentioned lots of shows to me, and I've been like, I just haven't seen that yet. And
Yeah.
You're like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't have the time. But there's, I much prefer to do that because part of that focuses on me. And, maybe I'm inherently selfish. I don't know. But it focuses on me and it helps me see some things about myself. So I've come to learn that I am learning when I'm reading, no matter what I'm reading.
Okay.
And I like learning. I think that getting kids to do it means coming up with an agreement that we're going to put our phones away. We're going to get off the screen time. And screen time to me means any screen. And we're going to, let's read a book, right? And maybe treat it like almost like an informal book club.
Okay.
Like, let's both read the same book and then let's talk about it. Like, what did you think about it? And find out, what are they getting out of the book? What are they seeing? What excites them about it? What bores them about it? What about that book? And I think if you talk about it like that, then they can continue to read the book, and that'll build some stamina, right, for reading books that maybe aren't as good as they think they are, and then finding the genre or the things that they do like.
Sure.
And if you can do it together while it's still separate, right, because you're doing it silently usually. Although if they're young, you're reading it to them. But like a teenager or somebody, 8, 10 years old, you could read the same book.
Sure.
And then just talk about it and get that interaction, just like you would with a TV show. You sit there with a TV show and you interrupt and you're like, that was cool. What about that?
Sure.
Do it. Like, allow the interruption even. Oh, I just read this paragraph. It was so awesome. Here's why. Allow them to interrupt you and talk about that.
Well, you mentioned that, and so Parent Magazine was saying kind of some of what you were saying, in that reading before bed should be just the same as putting on pajamas and brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
We're going to give you, computer down, tablet off, and phone away, and we are going to spend the next 30 minutes. You're going to read. And so they were saying, because by doing that, and you start that younger. I used to read to Eric.
Sure.
I was reading to Eric from day one, and we had a personal life. I think he had over 300-400 books, which build him his own bookshelf because, his mother was big into Dalmatian, so his bookshelf was a firehouse with a fire pole right down the middle. Made that for him, but it was full of all kinds of children books, and right. I was well known. I was kind of like the Norm of Cheers at the local Barnes and Noble, because I was always in there buying books for him. And so we read all the classics as well as news stories. And was, again, trying to create that culture of reading before bedtime.
Absolutely.
And so I like that. But you also mentioned about book clubs.
Yeah.
My mom got me into reading a book club.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so neat. I even went online today, and there are lots of online book clubs that you can get. Now, I'm embarrassed to say they are way too expensive. But I like the idea, the concept that a book would come in the mail in a box
But here's
with
the
my
thing.
name on it.
Here's the thing, though, of book clubs. Like, they can be local. Your local library probably has a book club.
Yes.
And guess what? The books are probably available there for free,
Yes.
right on the shelf.
Yes.
So, or you can start your own book club,
Yes.
right? And if you're buying paperback books, they're not that expensive.
No.
And so a lot of times you can get them at used bookstores and things like that. They have lots of them. So there's a lot of inexpensive ways to get into it. But, book clubs can be fun. I mean, you would go to the movies with people and sit silent and not talk to them and watch a movie. Why not have a book club instead where you can have interaction and relationship and eat pizza or donuts or whatever it is that you like, right? So getting away from the screen time, I think, is key. And I want to just say that I know that audiobooks are a thing, and I know that you love audiobooks.
Oh, yeah.
I do not like audiobooks. I will listen to an audiobook if that's like if I'm traveling or something.
Yes.
But I'm not a huge fan of it. I like to feel the paper, turn the page, do the things, right? And that's fine, right? Everybody has their own way. But I do think that even if you like audiobooks, it's good to find some time to just read a physical book.
Well, you mentioned that traveling. Sherry and I I'll find an author I think she would like. And so we'll listen to the story. And a lot of times we'll pause the story and we'll talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
And we'll wait a minute. I thought this was happening. Oh, I thought that was happening. Or, ooh, I bet you I know who the culprit is, or I know who, the bad, because some of them are murder mysteries. I mean, because we've really gotten into the Lincoln Lawyer.
Yeah.
But we've read all kinds of stuff. And so I like that. But one of the things, because you mentioned about reading as a family, but another thing from this lady she studies efficacy at Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, the book.
Okay, yeah.
They do all kinds of textbooks and reading books for elementary schools and stuff like that. And she was talking about reading alone. If you're an adolescent, if you're 9, 10, 12 years old,
right,
reading alone can feel both intimidating and lonely. So, but if you can read aloud, and like you were saying, you're having your grandson read to you. I think reading together as a family, but reading together, they say actually by reading aloud actually improves both your vocabulary development and your reading comprehension.
Well, think about it. I mean, we have students sometimes that are reading things aloud and they misspeak the words, right? So we can help them speak the word right. If you're just reading silently, you're going to read that word wrong every time until somebody actually says the word, right? And you see it. Because, to be honest, the English language is one of the more complex languages. It's not maybe not Mandarin, right? But it's definitely one of the more complex languages of the Western world. So it's difficult to learn it, whether it's your first language or your third language.
I always had kids read aloud in class.
Yeah.
And I would do that. And I would say, oh, congratulations, thank you. You just mispronounced the second most popularly mispronounced word in this class. The one they would always mispronounce was appellate. They always pronounced it appellate. And, but I would always say, okay, thank you. But I loved having the kids read aloud. I know that it's also intimidating for kids that don't read well.
It is. And I think they need to have a choice to do that or not. But
sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's good for people to see that everybody mispronounces words, right?
And
everybody misspells, everybody mispronounces. I mean, that's why we have spell checkers, right? Like spell checkers wouldn't have been a thing if everybody knew how to do it. So It's common. But reading is so important, right? There's that phrase, reading is fundamental, right? Like the greatest foundation I think you can have is reading. Reading opens you up to all the other subjects, all the other things in life. If it's always been a major focus, even back to, the first school in the United States in Boston, that was public, that was the idea, right? Was that everybody needed to learn how to read to be able to read the Bible or understand government or do anything.
Well, in order
and
to...
So, literacy has always been the thing that pushes society forward.
In order to read the newspaper, you need to know how to...
What is a newspaper?
Well, okay.
I mean, I get it. Yeah. Back then, definitely.
Well, yeah.
Right? I mean, that's where you got your stuff, right? But it's definitely the thing that pushes you forward. And I think that for me, it's about learning.
Well,
I love the learning.
If you are, for you and I as an adults, and I think a lot of adults enjoy learning later in life, way more than they enjoyed learning when they were, teenagers, when you're in middle school, high school. So if you are, what would be some ideas, suggestions you might give to parents that have a kid that's in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade that has really found reading not only not fun, but because they would rather play the video games or, all that other stuff, all the screen time distractions. What might you suggest or encourage? I mean, I got my own ideas.
I think that rewards are great.
Okay.
I think that, if the thing that you like is gaming, or whatever that might be, make that the reward, right? Like I just want you to try this thing. We're going to go to the library.
Okay.
Pick out a book, read a few pages, see if you like it. If you don't, put it back, pick out another book, right? Keep doing that until you find like the genre that you like. When I was a kid, I loved those books that were like choose your own adventure.
Oh,
and they have those in the libraries, right?
Yeah.
Like, so choose your own adventure, right? So when you get to the end of the page, they're like, oh, if you want this, go to page 59. If you want this, go to page 34. And you can kind of change, the adventure, right? And so, and it's a book you can read several times because you can go all kinds of different ways with the adventure. So I thought that was neat as a kid.
Sure.
And I got into lots of other fantasy books, like similar to Harry Potter. Of course, that was years later that came out.
Oh, yeah.
The Sword of Shannara, I think was.
Oh, yes. Terry Brooks. He is one of my
writer.
all-time favorites.
Of course there's something they like. If they like movies, then they probably like the books that are about those same kinds of genres.
Okay, yeah.
Find it and then say, try to come up with a workable goal, right? Like maybe read one book every 2 months. So you read 6 books a year, right? Like that, and usually novels like that are like 200-300 pages, so it's pretty workable. And I bet they'll get into it.
Well, you mentioned rewards. What kind of rewards might you use to incentivize?
I mean, I would use rewards for, maybe amounts of screen time or something. I think that's workable. I think that rewards can be anything that you think would drive them towards reading. But find what they particularly like. You like gaming? Great. Then, you get an extra hour of gaming if you can do this.
Okay.
Thing with, go to the library and do this thing or whatever that might be. Maybe you have a library of books at your house, the things that you liked when you were a kid, right? So share that with them. I mean, they need to be introduced to it.
Would it be worthwhile to, especially if you're dealing with, a kid in upper elementary, middle school, or even high school, ask the kids' teachers to, suggestions that they might have? I think
definitely certainly in elementary. I think that when they get into high school, the kids could just ask their teachers themselves, like, what's a good book? What are you reading?
Okay.
I think that's a great question to ask any adult, right? What are you reading?
Yeah.
You asked it of me at the beginning.
No, that's true. That's true.
I had 2 that I was working on, right? And part of that for me came from the school district I worked in now. When I first came to the school district, there was the superintendent would send out an email, and at the bottom of her message, part of her signature was what I'm reading.
Oh, yeah.
And she would have a book, and I was like, I need to be reading, right? And I started reading more. And to be honest, some of the most successful people I know in my profession that I personally know are avid readers.
Yes.
And we talk often about what we're reading. So it's just, if you want to succeed, if you want to grow, if you want to, be more creative, reading is a great way. And it doesn't negate the other things that you might do, watching videos or creating videos or doing those things. It's a fundamental thing that has existed throughout all of history since writing was invented.
I had one of my older sisters. When I was going through college and becoming a teacher and all of that back, a long time ago while they were still real young. I was always buying them books because I was still working in schools even back in the early 90s when they would have those Scholastic book clubs.
Yeah.
And trying to help encourage them to read. Well, a couple of them got to the point where they absolutely hated reading. And they were fine when they were, kindergarten, first, second, third grade. But by the time they got into, like I say, middle school, they'd really stopped reading. And they they fought tooth and nail to read to the point that they struggled when they got into their junior and senior years in high school.
Sure.
To the point that they barely graduated, were at risk of failing because, as you and I as high school teachers know, there's a lot of reading you are expected to do. Now, it is not high level at all the time, but you got to read it. You can't just come and physically be there in class. You got to engage, but you got to read stuff.
But if you haven't built stamina in reading where you've read things you like and you've persevered through and read things you didn't necessarily like as much, then when you get to class and they tell you to read Shakespeare,
true.
Or in my case, maybe a long time ago, the Iliad or something like that. You're like, what? I'm not interested in that.
Well, I mean, I know too, and Sherry's got I got some nieces and nephews through Sherry's side of the family that struggle with reading, and a couple of them have dyslexia. I have one of my sisters, her kids had dyslexia.
Yeah.
And I know that if you have ADHD or dyslexia, it makes it harder to sit. It makes it harder to read. But I think that's where we as parents can come in and help out and, sit with them and read with them and, try and help, like you were saying early on, make these interventions that might help them as they get older. And
there's lots of strategies for those conditions, right?
Yes.
There's lots of things that you can do. And my advice on that, I guess, would be to, if your child has that as a challenge, then I would speak to the teacher and the school that you're probably getting help already in the school for that. So talk to them and say, what can I do at home?
Yeah.
What are some strategies that we can use to try to work with that? So that's always a resource, right? So it's just, but I think that just reading something.
Yes.
Anything.
Well, shoot, you and I grew up at a time where it was commonplace to read the cereal boxes. I don't know about how many times you did that, but I did that most every morning. I'm reading that cereal box. I read it once. I read it 100 times.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I subscribe to a magazine that physically comes every month. I have the digital side of it too, but I get a magazine every month and it has a variety of things in it, but from political to just interest articles. So, it's all there, news and everything. It's something sitting on my coffee table and I can pick it up and just read an article. It's 2-3 pages long.
Okay.
And I can get something out of it.
That might be another idea. If you've got a kid at home, you're trying to interest in reading, get them. We had Ranger Rec magazine, Highlights magazine back.
There's even gaming magazines that have articles.
Really?
Sure. So, I mean, you can read about anything.
That's true. Okay.
When I was a kid, I used to get the auto magazine.
Car magazines?
Read about cars.
Okay.
Right? Or popular science or,
Okay.
So there's all kinds of things you can read about.
Okay.
And again, visit the library because they have all the things.
No, that's a good idea.
Right? They have all the stuff. They get copies of all of it, and it's I mean, there's better libraries than some, you know.
Sure.
But you can always go to even a neighboring towns or neighboring communities library, and just, you may not be able to check anything out, but you can definitely use the space and the resources they have while you're in it. Make use of it before they go away. Right?
Well,
the more people that go, the more likely they are to stick around.
I think if there's a way you can tie reading to pleasure, it might help, because yes, I think you and I both agree, not only are we academics or academians.
Sure.
Anyway, I don't know the fancy word for that, but I don't think you can survive and be as successful as you would like to be if you do not read.
Yeah. Well, you're just not growing as much as you could. Right?
I don't think.
It's like if you don't eat your vegetables, you got a problem, right? Vitamins and minerals are out. I mean, we make kids eat things and try those things. What's the difference, right? You're just feeding the mind a little bit.
Well, thanks for talking to me about reading. I love it. You love it. And maybe some of these ideas can help encourage others to, help their children or help themselves.
Absolutely.
So, well, I've got a book I need to go read. I'm reading from Vince Flynn. So the Mitch Rapp series. But anyway, well, I'm off. So until next time, I'm Rod.
I'm Scott.
See ya.
Bye-bye.